Then question 2 says, summarize 5 circumstances under which a company might be liquidated under the just and equitable ground. These circumstances include the first one, where the main objective of the company has failed. So companies are usually formed to attain certain objective. So if there's no way that company is able or is going to attain the objective of its formation, then it can be fair that the company be wound up on this particular ground. Then another thing is that where there is a complete deadlock in the management of the company. This one can happen in case of total disagreement in management, or in a situation whereby there is poor relationship between the directors or owners of the company to an extent that they are not able to communicate, they are not able to transact business. So meaning the only option is to wind up the company on just and equitable grounds. Then another thing is where the company is making losses. So if a company is making a lot of losses, then to save the company from those particular losses, they can decide that they wind up the company on just and equitable ground as a way of rescuing some of the remaining assets of the company. Then in case where the company is unfair to the society, this is where the company is exploiting the immediate environment. So if it happens that the company is exploiting the immediate environment, then to protect the members of the society against exploitation by the company, they can decide that the company is supposed to be wound up on just and equitable ground. Then in case some members have been excluded from management, or a certain class of shareholders have been excluded from management, it means you are denying them their rights which they are supposed to enjoy. So because of that, the company can also be wound up on just and equitable ground for excluding some of the shareholders in management. Then if a company was formed for an illegal purpose, the intention of forming that company was not to do business in a normal way, but to do something illegal, for example, formed to commit fraud, to defraud government revenue, and so on. So the moment that one is discovered, then the company is going to be wound up on just and equitable ground. Then in case of investigation, then the registrar has a report, or inspectors have given an unfavorable report, a negative report about that company. So they can act on that report, whereby they can decide that because of this negative report, then the company can be wound up on just and equitable ground. And question 2b says, state 4 particulars found in a certificate of registration of a foreign company. So these particulars include the name of the company. So there must be a name which is unique from other companies already registered. So it must be there. Then another thing is date of registration as a foreign company. This means the date when that company was registered in Kenya as a foreign company. Then also the date of incorporation in its place of origin. This is the date when it was formed in the country where it was incorporated. Because it's a foreign company, it was incorporated outside the country. So the date when it was incorporated. Then it must have also the registration number. So the certificate must have the registration number, then the seal, and also the signature of the registrar. So it must contain a seal from the registrar and contain also the signature of the registrar. Question number 2C, highlight 6 rules governing payment of dividends. 6 rules governing payment of dividends. Rule number 1, dividends can only be paid from profits. So if the company is not making profit, then that company is not allowed to pay dividend. If you pay dividend while you are making losses, it means you are paying people or shareholders out of capital. So to minimize or to avoid companies from paying back capital to members in form of dividend, then these companies are not allowed to pay dividend if they are not making profit. Then for dividend to be paid, there must be a rate of dividend. So this rate will be determined by or recommended by the board of directors. After the board of directors makes this recommendation, it will be approved by the general meeting. So members in a general meeting will pass an ordinary resolution approving that particular dividend. Then another thing, interim dividend may be paid by the board of directors if authorized by the articles. Now, interim dividend is dividend which is paid in between the year. So if the articles do not allow payment of interim dividend, then directors have no power to make payment of interim dividend. But if articles allows payment of interim dividend, then it means the directors have power to declare the interim dividend which can be paid in between the year. Then dividend cannot be declared if it will result to a company being unable to pay debts. So if a company has debts, is supposed to pay for those debts, at the same time is supposed to pay dividend. So what is given priority is payment of debt, where if a company is unable to pay the debt, then it will not be allowed to pay dividend. But if the company has capacity, is able to pay the debt, then that company is also allowed to pay dividend. And another thing, you cannot pay dividend out of unrealized profit. So you pay dividend out of profit which has been realized, but in case of profit which has not been realized, then you are not allowed to pay dividend. The reason being there is no surety that that amount of money will be recovered. So we have cases whereby bad debts occur. So if you have not realized profit, then you are not allowed to pay dividend. Then losses of circulating assets in the current accounting period must be made good before arriving at profit distributable as dividend. So if in the current accounting period you are making losses on circulating assets, in this case, those losses must be catered for before you go out and pay dividend. So you will not be allowed to pay dividend when you have not taken care of these profits from circulating assets. Another thing is that the profit realized from sale of fixed assets may be distributed as dividend. For example, you can sell an asset like motor vehicle, then you have sold it at a profit. So when you sell such an asset at a profit, that profit is also allowed to use or to pay as dividend. Then you are supposed to pay dividend in the form of cash, unless there is another article which declares that you can pay dividend in another form apart from cash. So cash is the common and the method which is allowed for payment of dividend. And if there is any other method apart from cash, then it must be clearly stated in the articles of association. Then dividends, once declared, become a debt to the company, and a member may sue the company for his dividend. So once the dividend have been declared, a member has a right to collect the dividend. So if the company does not pay the dividend, then a member can sue the company to recover that particular dividend. Then also, losses from circulating assets in the previous accounting period need not to be made good before arriving at a profit distributable as dividend. You may have made losses from the previous accounting period. So those losses may not count when it comes to payment of dividend of the current accounting period.